Yeah, we're also going to be recording this one once again. Hey, Alka, is if people miss the if people aren't able to make the synchronous session, could we send them the recording, or do we not want to do that?
For those participants, we can share. No problem. We just cannot share with outside of
Okay.
our group or our team here. I mean,
Okay.
the students, since they are part of that, it's okay.
Okay. Yes, sounds good. So that could be another option, Miles, as we can send you over the recording after the lecture on Monday, if that works for you, or if you'd like to do it beforehand, that's also fine.
I'll probably do it beforehand, probably tomorrow, just so I can also work on it until Monday, and then I'll probably upload it Monday.
Okay. Yep. No problem. So maybe we'll give another minute or two to see if the Miles, Isaac, and Ken show up. Yeah, this lesson should be a little bit shorter than the last one, so hopefully we'll have some time to implement features as well at the end of class. So I think we're just going to go ahead and get started by looking at some of the games that you guys made during last class. So I'll share the screen. You guys should be seeing the discussion forum now. So I'm just going to kind of go down the line and click on some of the games you guys made and have you guys talk about the features they've implemented. So let's start with Miles Baguette. So it looks like two different monsters. One is a square shape, one's a circle shaped, and they're in a Colosseum looking building, like with a kind of a gladiator fight type thing. And I'll just play it. And Miles, if you'd like to talk about some of the features he added, feel free.
Okay, I added a timer, and also before they were just like the weapons were just sticks, but I decided to add multiple colors like outlines to them.
Okay, nice. I see that. Cool. And the timer just counts upward.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. That makes sense. Cool. Thank you, Miles. Next we'll go to, oh, is Ken here right now? Ken is not here right now. So skip Ken's for now. Let's see if we can back. Gonna open Miles Isaac's game. Cool. Scratch Combat Oak 1. Cool. So this one has a red and a blue sprite, and they are attacking each other with swords. And it looks like sprite 2 can jump, and same with sprite 1. And there's a background here that has the moon, it looks like, and stars. Miles, Isaac, feel free to unmute yourself and add anything else you'd like to explain.
Since I was on a time crunch, it made it a little bit more difficult for me to add any extra features, since I'm on vacation right now. But I was able to get the very base game done. I added everything I was supposed to. but I did mess something up a little bit. I rescaled the hearts and I found out that it took more than like 2 or 3 hits to win the game for one character. So now it takes like 10. I should fix that, but I didn't get the chance to.
Okay, yep, no worries. How's your vacation?
It's going pretty well, just visiting with family.
Okay, nice. That's fun. Cool. And now we'll go down and see Abram. I'll open up your game now. So yeah, once again, two stick figures, one red, one blue. The red stick figure is very fast. It's kind of fun. And he attacks with green lightsabers, and blue one attacks with yellow lightsabers. Oh, cool. And I'm not sure if you guys can hear, but it makes noises when the characters jump. And the health is shown in the upper left. Abram, would you like to unmute yourself and describe some of the features here?
I kind of just like added more sounds, and I added like different costumes for like jumping and if you're attacking and jumping at the same time.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'll see if I can. Oh, yep. I see it now. That's cool. Nice job, Abram. And for this one, I think Ken, who's not here right now, I can just share Ken's real quick. But his ended up getting the most votes for best game. He added a lot of features. Oh. So he has a timer. He has multiple hearts, and the hearts go up with time as well. So after, I can't remember how many seconds it is, maybe 15 seconds, everyone gains a life. And he has the hearts, you lose half a heart each time you get hit. And I think that's all the features he added. Yep, and he has this timer down here.
I'm pretty sure whoever loses the next round, they start with 2 extra hearts. Like he also added that.
That's neat. I didn't see that. Yeah, that's a cool feature. Yeah, I thought I really like the idea of having the health regenerate slowly over time. Thought that made the game more interesting. But yeah, so Ken gets 3 developer points for that. Also, now that we're halfway through the course, Ted, would you mind giving us an update in terms of who's winning and who's in second in terms of the developer points?
So because Ken just won the best game, so Ken got 4 points for now, and after him is Abram and Miles Isaac with 3.
Okay.
Then Chase with 2, and yep, that's
Okay, sweet. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Ted. Ted is the master of the developer points. Yeah, so we're about halfway through. Congrats to Ken. I guess Ken's not here right now, but congrats to Ken for having the lead in that so far. And now we'll move on to the next session. So I'll scroll down to, we're on session 4 now. And what we're going to be doing in this session is we're going to be building a text-based game in Python. Hopefully you guys all had time to download Python onto your computers. And if not, feel free to kind of try to do that now while I'm explaining some of the other stuff. And some of what we're going to be learning. Oh, hey, how's it going, Ken?
I'm using my dad's computer, so
Okay.
I have a different name on there, okay?
Yeah, no worries. Were you able to install Python, Ken?
Oh, yeah. You can share.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Yep. So we just went over showing off some of the games. Your game won the best game this week, Ken. So congrats on that. And you currently have the lead in developer points as well. But yeah, so this week we're going to be learning some basic Python syntax. So kind of learning some of the same concepts that we learned in Scratch, but how to implement that in Python. And then we're going to also learn about commenting code, which this is important, especially if you're working on a project with multiple people. Yeah, and then lastly, we're going to create this text-based game. So to start, I have an example game here that you guys can play. I'll copy and paste the link over to the chat. Cool. Looks like Miles Isaac is getting his installed now. Yeah, if you want to just work on installing it instead of playing, that's also fine. So here's the game we're going to be playing. It's called A Written Realms. You can also access it through the Engage link. And this is just an example of a text-based game. And what we're going to do is we're going to play this first, and this first game plays an adventure. And what you do is you type stuff into the bottom here. And whoever has the most, let's say whoever has the most experience here at the end. So if you go down to stats and look at experience, whoever has the most of that at the end will win 1 developer point. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes to play this one. That'll also give Miles a little bit more time to download Python. It says create character. Okay. Yeah, so if it says create character, you can just type in a character name. Yeah, I can go over here. I'll open this in incognito and see if see what happens, because I've already played through this a little bit. Yeah, so you should yeah, so yeah, you guys actually might have to create a character to play this game. So if you would, just you can use a throwaway email for this one if you want. And yeah, I'm going through the process of creating a character. Okay. Yep. And once you've created a character, there's no email verification. So you can just put a throwaway email if you'd like. So yeah, if you just go through the process of signing up, and then you can play as your character's name. So let me know if anyone has problems with that. Yeah, feel free to use your real email if this is a game you're interested in playing later, or you can just type in some throwaway email. I usually use my Yahoo account for stuff like this. But once you get in, there should be, as you see here, a input text bar at the bottom, and you can pretty much input commands, and it would kind of tell you a story as you go along. And I'll give you guys one hint, because I had trouble with this, is when you encounter the first spider, you're going to need to use your knife to attack it. And then yeah, we'll give you guys maybe 3 more minutes. And at the end, whoever has the most experience will get 1 developer point. So Ken, was setting up the login information fine for you? Okay. Yeah, I'll assume everyone was able to get into the game. If not, just put something in the chat. Cool. So I think that's enough time on that game. If everyone could put how much experience they ended up with, I'll put 31. 65. Well, I feel like Chase is an expert at these games. He always gets first or second. 65 for Miles. 65 for both Miles. 34, 63 for Ken. Okay, three-way tie. So all three of you guys will get one developer point. So both Miles and Chase get a developer point. Cool. Yeah, so now that we have an example game, we're going to go back to the tutorial and kind of learn how to build our own version of this game in Python. So we go to the Explorer section. Oops. Apologies, that was lesson 3. Explore. So I'll give a quick example of the game we're going to make. If you want to, you can download the zip file. It should be, if you go back to home, there's a zip file you can download that has the Python code in it. If you'd like to, you can download that and unzip it and play the example game. I'll show you how it looks right now. So I'm going to open up Python, and then I have my file open here. So I'm going to run my file, and it starts with the question, does it move? So in this case, what this game is we're trying to fix something. And this game is called the Engineer's Handbook. So does it move? I'm going to say no. So let's say I'm trying to fix a wheel on my chair that's jammed and not moving. So I say no. N. Should it move? I say yes. So it says use WD-40. So that's the game that we're going to be building today. It's a pretty simple game, but hopefully this will help get you guys familiar with the Python environment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you guys how to start building this game. So can you guys see, it should be my desktop view with this Python file open?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sweet. So if you click on Python, it should open something here that says IDLE shell. Just give me a thumbs up if you've gotten to that point. Okay, so Miles says it looks the same, but there isn't an I at the top. Doesn't matter. What does yours end up saying at the top, Miles?
It just says Python, and then it said or sorry, it doesn't say. It says where python.exe is located. So it's C drive, users, Miles, app data.
Okay, it's still these 3 arrows here.
Yes. Yep. And all the other text in the box is the same. So it says Python version. Do you think it'll be fine?
I think so. You can try by typing print and try to type print hello like this. And if it displays hello, I think it should be working.
Yep, that worked.
Okay, cool. Yep. Should
Thank
be
you.
good then. So looks like everyone else, Miles Paquette is getting up and running. Looks like everyone else is good. Yeah, if you want, you can just put a thumbs up in the chat if this is good, Miles. Okay, sweet. Looks like everyone's good. Yep. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create a new file, and create a new file. Actually, sorry. Before this, we're going to want to scaffold what our game looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a flowchart for for the game. So I'll open this tutorial real quick. So you guys can see an example. So for example, I have this flowchart for the engineer's handbook. So I ask, does it move? Actually, I'll try to zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see better. But so I ask, does it move? And then depending on the answer, I ask, should it move? If the answer no, I should it move? If the answer yes. And if it moves and it should move, I do nothing. If it moves and if it does not move and it should move, I use WD-40. If it moves and it should move, I do nothing. If it moves and it should not move, I use duct tape. So if you guys want to create kind of a quick, just like flowchart that consists just of yes or no questions, and you can either do kind of like a handbook type thing, or if you want, you can have like a story type game, kind of like the one you played in Original Realms. But I'll give you guys maybe 5 minutes to think. Yeah, maybe 3 to 5 minutes to think of a kind of a story that you want to play through. So you can either use pen or paper to make this, or you can go into PowerPoint or Google Slides and just make this using some boxes. But kind of scaffolding this game is going to be helpful for when we build the game later. And then I'll just put a message here and let me know when you do that. Yep, and for now, if you could just make all the questions yes or no questions, and then after that, when we're adding new features, if you'd like, you can make these questions like A, B, C, D type questions. Yeah, also if you're having trouble thinking of ideas, you can also just copy the flowchart I made. Yeah, so for any of you guys that missed it, what we're going to be doing now is making the flowchart. So based on kind of what story you want to tell, or what, or if you want to implement some sort of instructions for someone, you're going to start by asking them a yes or no question, and then after that, ask them some follow-up yes or no questions. And you can either have this kind of create a story that they play through, or you can have it as kind of instructions for what to do. So in mine was the engineering handbook. I'm telling someone how to fix a part and asking them some questions about how the part is functioning and what the part should be doing. So yeah, you can do this either in PowerPoint or in Google Slides, or just on your own, just on a pen and paper, for example, if you'd like. And also, yeah, if you're having trouble, if you're unable to think of ideas, or you don't feel like thinking of a new idea, you can also just kind of copy down this flowchart, and you can just build the same game that I'm building. Okay, so it looks like 3 of you guys are finished. Miles, Chase, and Abram. Cool. It looks like 4 of you guys are finished. And Miles, Isaac, yeah, just give me a heads up when you're done. Or Miles, if you have some questions about what we should be doing as well, feel free to ask. Okay, yeah, sounds good. If you want, Miles, you can also just use the same flowchart that I'm using as well. That should work. Yeah. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make the project. So to do this, you're going to want to open a new file on your computer. I'm assuming all of you guys know how to create a file, but if not, you go to if you're on Windows, you go to your File Explorer, and then you navigate where in the path you want your file to be, and then you click this new file button, a new folder button, and then I guess we'll call our project engineering handbook. Also, yeah, I'm an engineer, so I'm allowed to make fun of engineers' processes, but yeah, this flow chart's kind of supposed to be making fun of engineers and saying they just put WD-40 and stuff or duct tape to fix it. So yeah, once you've created a new folder, what we're going to do is create a file inside of that folder, a Python file. So if you go back to your Python shell here and go File, and then New File, you should have another window pop up like this. And we're going to go to File, Save As, and then we're going to navigate to the folder we just made. So this engineering handbook, and we're going to just title this main. So this is going to be a main file inside of your project. So once everyone has done that, if you could like this message. And this is pretty much how we're going to be starting every project for here on out. So for the next 2 lessons as well, you're going to want to make a project folder and then a main file inside of that folder. Yeah, no worries, Miles. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over to your idle shell, or your shell file, and file, new file. And a blank window here that's blank should pop up that says untitled. And then you go to File and Save As. Yeah. Also, if you guys are having trouble hearing me as well, there's also the PDF document that kind of goes through this step by step. So that can also be a reference for you guys. Okay, so it looks like some of you guys have no file at the top of this. What you can also do is, I'll see, I'll look up real quick what to do in that case and we can get back to this. Control comma is what Chase is saying. Control comma. Well, not sure if that's working for me. I'll see is Ted or Dennis. Do you guys know how to just create a new file from the Python shell by just by typing a command?
I thought I already liked it. I just did. I thought I already liked the message.
Oh yeah, yep. Ken, it looks like you. Yeah, it looks like everyone's. Yeah, it looks like you figured it out. Oh, did I say Ken? Sorry, I meant to say Ted. But yeah, it looks like Miles. His setup is a little bit different than ours, and he doesn't have the file option at the top. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to just create a new file from the by using a command. Yeah, no worries, Miles. Maybe I'll put you in a quick breakout room with Ted and Dennis, so they can kind of walk through with you how to get it set up, and then you can share your screen with them, and they can kind of see what's going on. Does that sound good? Sweet.
Yeah, all right. We'll take a look at his software because I don't know like what his thingy's looking like, so we can't really give him a solid solution.
Yep.
We'll
Yep,
set him up. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sweet. Yep. And looks like Ted's over there with Miles. Same with Dennis. Alright, so it seems like the rest of you are able to create this main file. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a line of code here that makes it so that the user receives a question and puts in an input. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a variable named response, and response is going to be equal to input. And then
Wait,
you
how
add-
did you get the thingy that says star main dot py? Like,
Okay, yeah, so this was the main file that we created. So if you went to shell, the Python shell, and then hit new file,
uh-huh.
a new file should open.
Oh,
go to-
I think I did it wrong.
Okay, yeah, no worries, Ken. Yeah, if you want to just go through the process again, and then you go to file and save as, and then you save it into the folder that you created earlier. Yeah, so feel free to go through that. If you have questions, yeah, feel free to ask. Okay, Chase says that Windows 10 doesn't have the file option. Windows 11 doesn't have the file option. Interesting. Okay. So it seems like all of you guys might be having the same problem that Miles Isaac was having with creating this file. In the meantime, maybe I'll look around on the web for a solution. Or if any of you guys were able to get this to work without the file button, let me know. So I'll start over here.
Okay, I got it to work.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, it looks like a few. Okay, Miles Bouquet says he got his to work. Before it was all caps, now it's more subdued. Okay, yeah, no worries, Miles.
And I have the file option, BTW.
Okay, so you were able to just open it with the file. Miles, what did you do to get yours to work? If you wouldn't mind. Explain it.
I just did file new, and then I did file save as on the new file that I opened.
Okay, yeah, that's what works for me as well. It looks like Chase is saying that for his, he doesn't have this file button that he can click. Control N is something that Alcon is suggesting. So, yep, Alcon is correct. Thanks, Alcon. Yeah, Alcon has over 20 years of programming experience, so he's he's an expert at stuff like this. Yeah, so if you go to the idle shell here and hit Control N, then a new window should pop up. From there, then you should be able to hit File Save As, or from there, Control S, I think should save it. Yeah. So if you, from the shell, you put Control N, and then in here, you put Control S. that should work. So like this message. If you have created the main file. Yep. Thanks again for the help, Alcon. Okay, it looks like Miles has, Abram has, Chase has. And Ken, you mentioned you got it to work as well? Maybe we'll close the other break room so that we can get
Right.
the other guys back.
They
Did you-
they are installing, they didn't have a, ideally, they just have a Python command window.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're right there right now installing that. And once they installed, I can ask them back to
Okay.
the main.
Awesome. Thanks, Alcon. Thanks for helping manage this. So, yep. So Miles, Abram, and Chase have all liked the message. Ken, did you get it to work as well? Okay. Ken, I'll assume you're able to get the main file open. So now we'll move on to the next part. So if you go to your main script, and you write response is going to be a variable, and then equals input, and then you can ask whatever yes no question that you want to put. So for mine was, does the part move? So I'll put that inside of quotation marks. And then I'll save this. And you can hit run here. Or F5 is another option if you don't have this bar up here. So you can either hit F5 or run. And what you see is in the Python shell, something's going to pop up that says, does the part move? And you can put your input here, so yes, for example. And once the code is done running, you're going to see these 3 arrows here at the bottom. So if everyone could just test that out and write to me if this happened. So. So just give me a thumbs up if you're able to write this line of code in the main function, and then when you run it, it prompts you for a question in the shell. And once again, if you're having any issues, feel free to ask. Maybe I'll move these a little bit apart so it's easier for you guys to see. Hey, Ted and Dennis, were you guys able to help Miles get the IDE installed?
We're pretty sure it's installed, but he just had to restart his computer, so he went ahead and did that. So hopefully when it gets back, it's gonna be working, but if not, we'll look into it further.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, thanks, guys. Okay, cool. Looks like 2 of you guys have been able to get this, get the code working. Abram and Miles Burkett. So Ken and Chase, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
I don't have any questions. I'm just working on like I have some problems with like that part. I don't know what happened, but I have to. I think I have to remake all of it. So yeah, I'm having some problems, but I know how to fix.
Okay, yep, sounds good. I'll give you a little bit more time, and then if you end up still having the problems, feel free to ask. And Chase, is everything going okay with you? You can use the chat if you have any questions. For those of you that are finished with this step, you can also start to move on to the next step. The tutorial said Chase, you are not sure. Okay, so you can test to see if it's working by when you're over here on the main file. If you hit F5, you should have a question pop up here. So you should have the question such as, does the part move? Pop up in the idle shell. So if that happens, then everything's good. If that's not happening, then you might have a problem. Cool, looks like Ken's works. Chase, do you have any specific questions? If you want, we can also send you to a breakout room with Dennis and Ted too to look through the code. Or if you just need to. Okay, so what do you need? So do you have a second file open called main.py? Okay, no. Okay, so maybe we'll go back to that part because that part's important. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have you go in this shell. Do you have the idle shell file open, Chase? Okay, cool. Seems like you have that open. So what you're going to want to do is hit Control N, and that should open another file here. And you can hit Control S and save this file into the folder that we made at the beginning of the lesson. Okay, cool. Yep, seems like you're understanding, Chase. Cool. So I'll open back up my main. And yep, and just give me a thumbs up in the chat once you get up to this point, or if you still want me to explain. So yeah, I'll just kind of keep explaining through, and then just give me a thumbs up once you feel like you're good. So what you do is you're going to want to write a line of code in this main file that says response equals input, and then it asks a question here inside of quotation marks. So you can just copy this code directly if you'd like, and then hit F5. And what should be happening is this question should pop up here in the Python shell file. So if that's working for you, then I think everyone's gotten through this first part, and we can move on to the next part. So just like this message, if you so it looks like okay, cool. It looks like you like the message as well, Chase. Cool. Sweet. All right, so we're going to be moving on now to the next part. First, what we're going to do is we're going to add a line of a comment here. Oh, I see Miles Isaac just joined. Hey, Miles Isaac, let me know if everything seems to be working or if you still have questions. In the meantime, I guess we'll just go on to the next part, which is adding a comment. So what comments are, it's a way for you to take notes in your code. This is helpful for you to remember what you were doing when you made the code and for other people that are reading your code to understand. So to make a comment, you use the pound sign or the hashtag sign. And then you put, and then you can write whatever you want. And this isn't going to affect how your code runs at all, but it would just be a note, so you know what's going on. So we'll put a little note here that says prompt user for response. And if you want to, you can run this again, and you see this isn't going to affect the output at all. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user with a yes or no question. So we're going to format this a little bit better. So we want them to enter yes or no. Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds like Miles is still having a little bit of trouble with his computer. And yeah, he might just work on this independently. Yeah, feel free, Miles, to do that. If you want, I can also send you the video after this lecture is done, if you think that would be helpful. Because we are recording this. Sweet. Okay, awesome. Yeah, once this is done, I'll have I think Elcon has access to the video, so I'll have Elcon send it over to you, so you can follow along. And then yep, and then I'll just put and then just whenever you get to the finishing up the features, that would be good. Yeah, Saturday night. Saturday works perfectly. Sweet. Yeah, thanks, Isaac. Yeah, sorry for some of the issues with your computer. So yeah, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to just try to format this question a little bit better. So we want to prompt them. We want them to enter a yes or no. So we're going to add this yes/no to it. And you can run the code again and see how that looks. So you must save it. Save, and you see it has a yes/no here. And one other thing is, you see when we type the response, it's on the same line here as the question. So to make it go to the next line, we're going to add a new line character here. So what is there's a special character in most programming languages, which is a \n, and it treats one thing to be sure of is to use / instead of /. And this would treat this character as a new line character. So it's going to go to the next line. So if you say, if you run this, now you should see over here, the question is, does the bug move? Yes/no, and then it will be a space. And then you can put in whatever else it worked. So I'm just going to check to make sure if everyone's at this point. Is everyone at this point? And if not, if you had some issues implementing this, feel free to just ask some questions in the chat. And once we get 4 thumbs up, I'll move on to the next part. Okay, awesome. Seems like you guys are following along well. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make sure that we are reading in this response. And to check that, what we're going to do is we're going to write something that says print response. So what this is doing is this input function is reading the response and storing it to this variable named response. And then we're going to print the response to make sure that we read it in correctly. So once again, you can Control S to save it and F5 to run. So now it says, does this part move? I'm going to say no. And it prints out no right beneath it. So you guys can test that out, make sure it works. And then one more thing that we're going to add is we're going to force them to either put in a yes, a Y, or an N for their input. So right now you can put in anything for the input and it doesn't have a problem. But what we want is we want to make sure they just put a Y or an N. So we're gonna start by making a response have a default value of just nothing. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna say while not. So while the response is equal to y, or response is equal to n. And what's it's gonna do is it's going to keep asking this question. So it's going to keep asking this question until. So while the response is not equal to y or equal to n, it's gonna keep prompting you the same question. So if we save this and run this, you should see that now it prompts you. Oops. There's the part. So I'm going to put an M here. That's not a valid response. Put something like this. That's not a valid response. So it keeps prompting me again and again. And once I put in a Y for yes, then it will print out Y and end. So I'll put a checkpoint here. In the chat. So just like this message called checkpoint if you guys if this part of the code is working for you. And yeah, pretty much what we're trying to do here is just make sure that the user puts in either a Y or an N, and if they don't, it will keep asking them until they do it. Very cool. Seems like Abram, you have it under control. One thing that is important here is this indentation. So if you have a structure such as a while loop or an if statement that ends in a colon, anything that you indent is going to be inside of this while loop. So you're going to want to make sure that you indent this part so that this question is asked within the while loop. Well, looks like Ken also has it. Give you guys a minute or two more, or once again, if you have questions, or if you're having trouble getting this to work, feel free to put stuff in the chat. Once again, what it looks like on the right here should be what your code looks like. Yeah. So yeah, something Ken's saying is you don't need the print response thing, and that's true. We're just printing the response at the end. Anything else? Okay. It might be this. The problem you might be having, Miles, is this equal should be a double equals instead of a single equals. So when you're making a comparison in Python, you want to use double equals, and if you're assigning a value to something, you use single equals. So that could be the issue. You have double equals. Okay. Something you could check for is you could put your print statement inside of the for loop, and just make sure it's getting your response correctly. So you can do Control S, and then if you'd like to F5. Also, yeah, I guess make sure you're typing at the right spot at the bottom here. So let's say you write M, it should print an M. So when you type Y or N, it should print out that. So that's something you can check to make sure it's grabbing the right letter. It's grabbing the thing that you type. And yeah, so if you type M, for example, then it should ask you another question. And if you
Wait,
type
isn't,
N or what?
I thought you were saying that, it didn't do it.
Oh yeah, sorry. If you type M, it should it would still print out if you move the print statement in here, but it's going to loop through and ask the question again. Another thing is maybe this not function. If you don't have not here, that could cause a problem. Or this or right here. That's also important. If you used an and, for example, you might have a problem. Yeah, if your code looks identical, Miles, I'm not quite sure what the issue might be. Like yours, huh? Cool. So yeah, if you hit F5, maybe try to just run it again. Make sure you saved it. That's another thing. Make sure it's saved, so that it's up to date. And then you hit F5 again, and once you hit Y, it should end it. But if you still have the same error, I could also send you to the breakout room as well, so that you can share your screen. Yeah, just let me know, Miles. If you would like. Yeah. Okay, it's still not working correctly. Maybe I'll send you to the breakout room. That way you can share your screen with Dennis and Ted. Yeah, so Dennis and Ted, if you wouldn't mind setting that up.
Yep, we got it.
Sweet. Mine's chased with the last 2 weeks of school. Yeah. Yep, sorry, this one's
I'm already out of school.
yeah, it's June 15th, right? So yeah, most of you guys should probably be out of school by now. Unless I think some schools offer like summer school as well. So, okay. Now there's 3 of us. Hopefully we don't lose anyone else along the way. But we'll move to the next problem and next part of the class, because it seems like everything's working for you guys. So what we're going to do next is we're going to convert these inputs to booleans. So they're going to input a y or an n, and what we want to do is we want to make it such that if they put yes, we read that as true, and if they put no, we read it as false. So what we're going to do is below here, we're going to put an if statement. So if response equals y, then we're going to do response. We're gonna have this thing called response boolean equals true. So you can test this out if you'd like by having this print statement print the response boolean and putting it inside of this if statement. So we'll run the module here. And what you see is just the move, and if you put y, it's gonna print true. So if everyone could try that out and like this checkpoint message, if you got that to work.
Is there like an else thing in here, like where you could just put else, like if else?
Yep, that's entirely possible. Yep. So you can put else. Yep. So if you want to do an else, you can put something like that. So, for example, you could do else. You could put else. It's going to be false. For example. And if you run this, so you put m, it will prompt you again. Y says true. And if you put n, it should say false. Yep, so exactly, same thing as Scratch, they have this else statement. And that's something you can, just by writing the word else with a colon here, you can create an else statement. Well, looks like Abram got it to work. Ken, is it working for you as well? It works for Ken. And Chase, over here. Cool, looking for Chase as well. Sweet. So now, if you guys can add some code to check. So if it's no, if it's equal to n, make it return, make the response boolean be equal to false. So let you guys implement that on your own. Very similar to what you just wrote, but this time looking at the letter n and setting it to false. So I'll put another checkpoint here. Just let me know when you finish that. Okay, so looks like Abram finished. Chase and Ken, let me know if you're finished or if you have questions. And there's two different ways you could implement this. You could write another if statement, pretty much exactly like we did here, or we can use an else statement, as Ken suggested earlier. Chase, yeah, let me know if everything's working for you. If not, feel free to ask some questions. Well, so the else statement is a bit confusing. Yeah, so I can go through what I would do. So what I say, my approach is just doing if the response is equal to n, then the response bool equals false. So I just am doing another if statement here. I think this is probably the easier approach because it's just the same as this statement. Another thing that Ken was saying is we could replace this just with an else statement. But for now, yeah, you can put if. So pretty much identical to the code right above. If the response is equal to n, then set the response boolean to false, and then print. And once again, Control S to save it, and F5 to run the code. So it does the part move, we're gonna say no, and it prints false. Let me know if it works for you now, Chase, or if you still have questions. Yep, if that works for you, Chase, just give a thumbs up. Or if you're still confused, yeah, feel free to ask me. Sweet. Looks like it's working for everybody now. So now what we're going to do. Response pool is undefined. It's possible you have a. It's possible. Make sure that everything is the same in terms of these variable names, and make sure that you print the response boolean at the end. So you're saying you have an error message that says response pool is undefined. Could be a few. Usually that means when you wrote this print statement, you printed a variable that didn't exist. So what might be happening is the name that you use here is different than one of the names here. So you want to double check to make sure the names are the same. Another thing is maybe you're having a response that's not equal to y and not equal to n. So neither of these two things trigger, and you get an error with the print statement. So had a capital Y. Okay. Yep. So stuff is case sensitive in Python. Yeah. So make sure if you're using capital letters, then you're using capital letters everywhere. All right, sweet. Looks like it's working for Chase as well. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to take this code and we're going to create a function from this code. So what we're going to do is we're going to, at the very top here, have definition. So def get yes no. So we're going to create a function called yes no with an input called question. And we're going to use a colon here. And whenever we use a colon, if we want stuff inside of here, we're going to indent everything. So we're going to put a tab here. What we're going to do is we're going to change this question here, this text here, to say question plus this. So whatever question you feed into the function, it's going to print that question with this yes no at the end. And then it's going to come through here and check if it's a yes or a no answer, and then change this response boolean based on that. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to return the response. So pretty much what's happening here is we feed in a question that we want to ask them, and then based on the response, we output either true or false. And what we're going to do down here is we're going to, so this would be main. So what we're going to do down here is we're going to call this function. So what we're going to do is we're going to.
My mom just told me that I'm leaving 20 minutes early.
Okay, sweet, at 10:40. Cool, we should have the tutorial wrapped up by then. We might still be doing the lecture, but that's fine. Feel free to look at the lecture on your own as well afterwards. So, sweet. Thanks again for the heads up. And what we're going to do is we're going to test out this function. So we're going to say function output, so this is a variable, is equal to the function that we're calling. And then we're going to ask question such as, does it move? And then we're going to print this function. I'm actually going to get rid of this print statement here because it might be a little bit confusing having print things multiple places. So this is what the code should look like. You should have your function definition here, where you are passing in the question. The question is added to the string, and then you return the response from the user, either true or false. And then in this main part of the code, what we're doing is we are calling the function with this question, and then we're going to print the response. So you can run the module, and it should pretty much look like it did before. So you can test it out. And it, yeah, pretty much what should be happening here is it should function identical to how it functioned before we created this new structure for the code. So if that's working like this message, and what's nice here is that now we have a function that we can reuse multiple times. So we can, if we can ask different questions and just always reuse this piece of code up here. Sweet, looks like Ken and Abram, you guys got it pretty much immediately. And then, yep, sweet, looks like Miles Paquette got it as well today. Welcome back, Miles. And then Chase, let me know if you have any questions as well, or if there's anything I can do to help you debug. Yep. One thing to note is if you're following along on the PDF here, I noticed a few of the indentation stuff is incorrect. So do be aware of that if you're following along using the PDF. Okay, sweet. Looks like everyone got that to work. Awesome. That's the probably the hardest part of the tutorial. So from now on, it's just going to be pretty smooth sailing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to implement different questions based on how they respond. So let's say if let's just test this real quick. So we're going to say if, and we make this function call. If, so what we're going to do here is if, we're going to delete this function out and just say if get yes, no, does it move? And then we'll say, so if it's true, it's going to go into here, and if it's false, we'll go somewhere else. So what we're going to print here is we're just going to print it is moving. And then we're going to have an else statement here that says print it is not moving. So we can run this. Is it moving? We're going to say yes. It says it is moving. And you can check similar thing, but no, it is not moving. So I'm just going to put another checkpoint here. Let me know if you can have this working. And pretty much what we're doing here is we're just making a function call here. And it's going to return either true or false, and this true or false gets evaluated in this if statement. So it either maps you to this print statement, or if it's false, it'll map you to this print statement. Ken, is it working for you? Or is there anything I can do to help? Good. Cool. Looks like it's working for all of you guys. So next I'm going to let you guys implement your flowchart that you made at the beginning. So you ask a question here. And then inside of here, you can ask follow-up questions, kind of the same way that we did this. So inside of here, you can have another if statement that asks another question. And then based on the responses, you print different instructions. So I'll put a checkpoint here. So yeah, so now you guys are kind of implementing your own yes/no flowchart that you made. Also, if you feel like yours is too complicated, you can also just implement the flowchart I had at the beginning, which is just has 4 different options. And yeah, pretty much to do that, you're just going to mirror the structure that we used with a bunch of these nestled if-else statements. And yeah, if you guys are lost, confused at all, just put something in the chat or unmute yourself and yell at me. Looks like everyone's still working. Maybe I'll give you guys around 3 more minutes. And then if people are still unfinished, then maybe we can kind of, I'll start demonstrating how I implement my flowchart. Also, yeah, something that you guys should be doing, I haven't been doing a good job of it, is adding comments to your code. So every time you add kind of a new chunk of code, it's best practice to add a comment to kind of explain what it's doing. Okay, seems like everyone's still working. Do people have questions? If not, I'm probably just going to start going through how I implement this for my flowchart. Okay, I'll just start kind of going through what I did. So inside of this if statement, I made another if statement that said if get yes no. Should if move. And then if so, this is going to be the case that if they say yes to doesn't move and yes to should have moved, then I tell them do nothing. Next, I'll have an else statement here for the other case. So in this case, this is the case where it does move, but it should not move. So what I'm going to tell them to do is use duck. So we finished 2 of the cases now. And in our flowchart, we see at the bottom here, we have 4 different cases that it could be. So now we're going to implement the cases for the else statement. So for here, we'll say get yes, no. Last one again, should if no. So this is going to be the case. This is going to be the case that it does not move, but it should move. So I'm going to say use WD-40. And then I'll have an else statement here. Else, every type on here should be. Should in the quotation mark there. And else, we're going to print do nothing. So now we have 4 responses based on the 4 different response. We have 4 different instructions based on the 4 different responses that the users can input. I see still no one has liked the checkpoint button, the checkpoint message. Are there questions people have? Looks like Abram did, Miles did. Chase and Ken, let me know if there's any questions I can help with. Also, for those that have finished, you can test out your code by running it and hitting say yes, no. So you can look at all the different combinations. Should have 4 different combinations. Sweet, it looks like,
Mine has many more combinations. I added a bunch of if and else things.
okay. Well, I'm looking forward to playing yours, Ken. Yeah, so that's yeah, that's one other thing, Ken. Since you're going to be leaving early, you might leave before we talk about how to share these games. So what you're going to want to do is, if you want to share your game, send it to a zip file. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with how to do that, Ken, but you open up wherever your file is, and then right click it and hit send to compressed zip folder. And then you can upload that zip folder onto the message board, so that people can download it. So that's going to be how you share this game. Unlike Scratch, where you can just share a link, this one you're going to actually share the file. Cool. So Chase, let me know if you just need more time. If you have a complicated flowchart, it might take a little longer to build it, or if you're having some problems debugging, we can also go through that as well. Also, if you're finished, you can just put a thumbs up on the message. Okay, Chase, I'm assuming maybe you're just still working on implementing it. Or yeah, once again, if you're having problems with the debugging, feel free to just put something in the chat. Or if you're finished, just like the message, and then we can kind of move on to the next part of the list. Chase, if you wouldn't mind just communicating with us to make sure you're still there. We can also send you to a breakout room if you'd like. Invalid syntax. Okay. Usually when there's an error message, so I can show you what happens. So for example, if I don't have this colon here and I hit run module, I'll get an error that says expected that. So you have invalid syntax. Maybe I'll try to have something like this. So here's a syntax error. So it highlights where it is. Sometimes it will also show the error messages in the shell, and it would tell you which line that error is occurring at. So it should tell you the line number, and then I'll put an example here. I'll try to print. I'll print a variable that doesn't exist. So I'll put that at the top. So we hit the error immediately. So here we can see an error message and it says line number 12. So it tell you where the error message is, and it usually tells you what type of error. So here it says invalid syntax. It should give you a line number. And what you can do is you can move your cursor to that around, and down here it's going to tell you what line you're on. So this is line 12, and you can see the errors on line 12. There's the variable is not something that exists, so I need to define that. For you, it sounds like a syntax error, so that's likely means there's just like a small typo somewhere. Making sure you have the colons here is important. Same thing after these else statements, making sure you have colons at each of these. If the first part worked for you, this if statement, then these other if statements should work if they're kind of the same. It could also be making sure your function has the correct name, that it matches up with this. If you want to, is there a question? Also, Chase, if you want to, you can just share your screen. Now it is a line indent error. Okay, so line indent. So pretty much what you're going to want to have is you're going to make sure that anything that you want inside of this if statement, you want to have indented. And you want to have it indented by the same amount. So you're going to hit this tab button to indent it. And inside of the if statement, you're going to want to make sure these print statements are indented. Also, it could be, once again, make sure you just have colons after all of these else and if statements. You want to make sure you have a colon after all of these. And then once again, you're going to want to make sure that this stuff is, anything inside of that is indented. We can also have you share your screen if you want to, Chase, and we can kind of all work together and trying to find where the error is. Okay, can't share where I am. Yeah, so I'll stop the share, and Chase, if you'd like to share your screen, we can go through it if you're comfortable with that. If not, we can put you in a breakout room. Okay, cool. So if else, oh, I see. You're going to want to make sure that your else is indented the same amount as your if. So I think you might have been using spaces. Use the tab button instead to make sure everything's indented the same. Yeah, so go back and hit tab, and then for the if and print stuff, make sure to delete the space and hit a tab. Same thing with the print statement at the top there, underneath. Yeah, so that one, if you could hit back and then tab. Cool. Yep, and then just pretty much the same thing with all of the next print statement as well. Make sure that's double tab. So if sorry, so that if statement is just a single tab. So if you go, yeah, if you just delete once again all the space before that if statement and just hit tab once. And then the next line print statement should be 2 tabs. So if you get rid of all the white space and then just hit tab twice. Sweet. Yep, and just make sure all the print statements are like that. So same with the one above. Yeah, so make sure that else is 1 tab. Make sure that print below the else is also 2 tabs. Yeah, you might want to, okay, yeah, that looks lined up. Yeah, I'd delete that last print statement. We don't need that one anymore. Cool. And then you can also delete, do you see that first print statement you have that says it is moving? You can also delete that if you'd like. And then, yeah, just make sure that all of those print statements are just 2 tabs, because right now it looks like they might be not quite lined up. So, oh, yeah, so it looks like you forgot you need a quotation mark there, double quotes. And sometimes you can tell based on the color. Yep, and now you can hit, you can type yes, for example, and see if that works. Cool. Do it.
Why does it print true? Why does it print true?
There's a print statement inside of his function that says print response full. Cool. So it does look like it's working. It says, does it move? And then you say yes. And then it says, oh, I see. Yeah, so one other thing you might want to change, Chase, to get it working is inside of the inside of your function here at the top, it says do it move. You might want to replace that with I think that says question and then plus that. So it's on line like 5, third from the top, fourth line from the top. Yeah, the input. So you see the do it move. You should delete that, and before the quotation mark, if you write the word question and then a plus mark. Yeah, so you can delete the do it move thing. That line, those words. Feel free to just delete the do it move. Not the whole line, but yeah, just those 3 words if you'd like. Awesome. Yep, exactly. If you could delete that. And then right before the quotation mark starts, if you write the word question and then plus. And then space, and then plus. Yep. And one other thing is, if you see the print statement that's there right before the return statement, if you also remove that, that will get rid of the thing that's is pretty true or false. So down a little bit, yep, the line right above that one. So the return statement's good, but the print statement there, you can get rid of that. So yeah, you can delete that. And now if you run it, it should work. It should work. So does it move? Yes. Should it move? Yes. Awesome. Yep, looks like your program's working as it should. Great job, Chase. Cool. Yep. So congrats, guys, on getting your first Python game to work. We're going to move now to the explain section. So I'll share my screen again. And we're just going to kind of, the main things we're going to be learning today is just about taking some of the knowledge we had from Scratch and learning how to implement that in Python. So learning the Python syntax. Ken, it might be time for you to leave, so feel free to just duck out whenever you need to. So open up this explain section. So first thing we're going to learn about is the Python file structure. So this is kind of some of the stuff we talked about at the beginning. We have our Python script. In our case, this was a main file. And this is where you write most of your code. And you save this file so that you have your code saved. And we usually save this within a project. And then you have your shell, which this would print out your error messages. And whenever you hit print from any of your Python files, it's going to print those values to the shell. And in the shell, it allows the user to interact with the programs you've written. So that's kind of the basic structure here. Unlike in Scratch, where you have multiple of these different small scripts running at the same time, in Python, everything's just going to run from the top of your script down to the bottom. So it's kind of just going to be behave just pretty linearly, right? It's going to execute the first line, the second line, so on and so forth, kind of like you would read a book, for example. So next, we're just going to go over some of the concepts that we learned in Scratch, but how these are implemented in Python. So first, we're going to talk about some of the variables and variable primitives. Does anyone remember the name of this first variable primitive we learned about? This variable equal to -2. Feel free to just put it in the chat. If anyone remembers this one. So this was called an int, as an integer. Anybody know what this one was? The 1.4? Float. Yep. Good job, Evan. Anyone remember what this one was? The A. Close. This one is a character. And the string is kind of a multiple characters strung together. So if you have multiple of these, then that would be a string. And if you just have a single one, that's a character. And then this one here, this mouse down, type one. And all of the hexagonal ones are the same type in Scratch. This was called a Boolean. Yep, Boolean. Exactly, Abram. Nice. So how we implement these in Python is you create a variable name here on the left. You're going to want your variable name to be something that usually starts with a letter. And it can contain letters or numbers or capital letters, but it usually isn't allowed to start with a number. So you have a variable name, and then you have this assignment operator, which is the equal sign, and you assign some value to your variable. And once again, yeah, it has the same, it has integers, it has characters, it has floating types, and it also has booleans. And in Python, you also don't have to declare what variable type it is. So it does that for you. So depending on what value you put in, it will know which variable type that you intend to use. And then next, we also have some of these derived variables, so such as lists and strings. In Scratch, we would build a list like this, where we'd create a list variable and then add elements to it. In Python, you create a list like this. So you use these bracket notation, and you use commas too for the different elements in the list. Another kind of a specific type of list is a string. And so this is kind of a list of characters. In Python, you just set it like you would, in Scratch, you set it like you would any other variable. You create the string name here. And then in Python, the same thing, use double quotation marks. And you can just write whatever text you want here, and it would know it's a string. And it would kind of just behave like any other variable. Next, we're going to look at mathematical operators. So in Scratch, these were these green blocks, and you could put variables or values in here, and it would output the response to that mathematical operation. Does anyone remember what this one was? All these other ones are pretty straightforward. Does anyone remember what the modulus operator was? Okay, the modulus operator was a remainder operator. So it pretty much, if you take 7, for example, and divide it by 5, you're going to have a remainder of 2. So 7 mod 5 is equal to 2. And to implement these in Python, it's pretty much exactly as you expect. You use plus for plus, minus for minus, the star operator for multiplication, and the slash for division. The only tricky one is modulus operator, you use the percentage sign. And then for round, you just write the word round, and then in parentheses the variable. So does anyone know what this first print statement is going to say? Variable 3, what this will evaluate to? Feel free to just drop it in the chat. Okay, this one is just 2 times 7 minus 3. So that's going to be 11. And then anyone know what the second one will evaluate to? Okay, this one is going to evaluate to 11 divided by 2, so that's 5.5. Round that, it would be 6. And then 6 minus 5 is the remainder of 1. 1 minus 3 should be -2. So you have 11 and -2. I'm kind of just going to go quickly through this other stuff since we're a little low on time. But there's also logical operators, so the and, or, not, that you guys probably remember from scratch. Here you just write those as or, and, not. And pretty much for the not, you're just going to use parentheses. For the and or, you put each variable on either side. And similarly to Scratch, you can build up more complex logical operations from these base ones. So input of this one is, oops, that's the same as the other one. I think that one might have been true. I can't quite remember. Yeah, so the true and false is false. Yeah, so this evaluates the true. Okay. Next, we're gonna talk about conditional statements. Do you guys remember what the 3 conditional statements are? This was kind of a long time ago. We learned about this on the first lesson. So it's if statements, else statements, and skip. People got it. If, else, and switch statements. So we go during the lesson. We implemented the if and if else, but we haven't implemented the switch yet. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Yep. So in Scratch we have the if then. In Python we just have this if with the colon, and then you evaluate you evaluate this condition, and then you output a command based on that. So for this one, nothing would output because it's not smaller. So if else statements in Python, we do if and then an else statement beneath it. We implemented this in the code, so you guys are probably familiar with it. So for this one, it's going to print big. And then lastly, switch statements. So you use this keyword match, and you say match, and then the variable name, and you have these different cases. So case 1, case 2, case, and then the otherwise case. So if the variable is equal to 1, it's going to skip your turn. If the variable is equal to 2, you draw a card. And then if the variable is equal to anything else, it will roll again. So unlike Scratch, which doesn't have this switch statement, in Python it does, and it uses this match keyword with these different cases. The otherwise case is always an underscore. Next we're going to look at loops. So does anyone remember the 3 types of loops that we used? Okay, sweet, super quick, Abram. Nice. For, while, and do while. Yep, correct. And how we implement these in Python. But the for For the for loop, if you remember in Scratch, we just repeat a certain number of times. In Python, it's a little bit more complicated. So you create a list, and then you use for, and you do a variable name in list one. So what this is going to do is going to loop through each element of the list. So we'll go through the first time, and variable is going to be equal to 1. We'll go through the second time, variable is equal to 2. We'll go through the third time, variable is equal to 3. And we'll go through the fourth time, and since there's a 5 here, the variable is going to be equal to 5. So the output will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. While loops are very straightforward. For these, it's just a while statement. You evaluate some condition, and if that condition is true, it continues to loop. So quite similar to what you see in Scratch. So for example, this one would output 2, and then 4, and then 16, and then it would exit the while loop. And then do while loops is something that Python and Scratch both don't have. But the idea of this would be it would execute this condition, this command once before it actually started going through the loop. And you can kind of build this by post if you'd like to putting a copy of this code before the while loop, and that would kind of build you a do while loop. Next, we're just going to quickly go over functions. I know we're a little bit low on time, so we're just going to go over 2 more slides. I'm going to cut out some of the examples. So functions, we actually implemented a function today in our program. And pretty much the structure is very similar to what you have in Scratch. You're going to create a function definition. So you have your definition here, you have your function name, very similar to what you have in Scratch. And then you have variables that you want to input. Then you write your blocks of code, you write your lines of code here, similar to how you have your blocks of code in Scratch. And then the main difference is you're going to have a return statement here at the bottom. So in Scratch, all of the Python, all of the functions returned. It wouldn't return any variables. It would just return nothing. But in Python, you can return values. So if you remember back to our code, we would return a true or a false. You can also return nothing. So if you just hit return, it will return nothing. But you also have the option of returning a variable. And then similarly to in Scratch, where we make a call to this function and pass in a value. In Python, we also use the function name to make a call to the function, and our inputs have to match the number of inputs that we have here. And in the case that you have a return function, you can have a variable be set equal to this to get the return of the function that you call. So that was something you probably saw when we built the game, is we made a function that returned a boolean. And lastly, we're going to talk about objects and classes. So in Python, in Scratch, your sprites and backgrounds kind of acted as classes and objects. So these sprites and backgrounds kind of held information. So you had information about the position of the sprite, information about the size of the sprite, and these were all kind of fields inside of this object. Whereas in Python, you have to explicitly create your class. So to do that, you use the keyword class, and then you create a name for the class. And what you do is you create a function that is called a constructor. So what's going to happen in this constructor is it's going to set up all of the different fields that you have in the class. So we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail in the next class, but pretty much what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to create this constructor class that has all of the fields here, and then it's going to initialize the value of each of these fields. So in this case, all of the fields are being equal to whatever you pass in. So in this case, when you create this player class down here, you're going to have to pass in the value for each field. So you have the size, for example, the position, the velocity, the name, the color, the hitbox. And when you create this class, you're going to want to initialize all of them. And what our constructor does is it just takes these inputs and sets all of the fields equal to the inputs that you provided. You can also create methods as well. So if you remember back, each a class can have both variables, which are called fields, or functions, which are methods. So you can also create functions for a class. In this case, we have a move function, for example. And to move, let's say we take the position of this class and we update it based on the velocity of the class. So here's some kind of example code for how you can create this sprite class. So you have a hero sprite, and you initialize it by calling the name of the class and putting in the values you want for each of these: size, position, velocity, so on and so forth. And then you can access these different fields by using this dot operator. So you use hero class and then dot whatever field you want to access. And then you can access the methods by, once again, using the dot operator. So you use the class and then dot and then the function that you want to call within the class. So in this one, the output would look like we print the position and we initialize the position to 0. So print 0. And here we then set the velocity to 1 and move the hero, and then we print the updated position. And so the position has been updated to 1. So that's an example of class. Last thing real quick is comments. We went over this quickly. You can use the hashtag sign to make a comment. This doesn't affect your code. If you want to make a larger comment over multiple lines, you can use 3 quotation marks and then whatever you want, and then 3 more quotation marks. And that gives you a really long comment if you want a bunch of information, if you want to add a bunch of information to the code. We don't have time to go over these, but this is just kind of going over some of the code that we built during the game. It seemed like you guys had a good understanding of this, so I'll skip that for now. We didn't get a chance to do the brainstorming and feature implementation today, but I'll have you guys kind of do that on your own, so you can add features and brainstorm features for the game. And then once you're done, if you could share the game once again on the forum. And how you're going to share the game is you're going to take the file that we made. So in this case, we have this engineering handbook folder that I had. I'm going to send it to a compressed zip, and then you're going to upload the zip file to the discussion forum to share it. And then you can download people's games that they've uploaded and test them out on your own computer. So yeah, thanks for everyone who attended. Sorry this once again ran over. And it seemed like we were able to work through most of the technical difficulties. Python. Falcon, did you have any comments?
Yes, I think by end of today, we can upload today's video to this lesson. So
Okay.
I probably on the top of this lesson we can add video link, so you guys can if you need to watch. I mean, eventually we will we will publish all those videos that we captured during this lesson into the course, right? But for just today, we'll because someone want to see it, so we can download the video and publish the video for today's lesson on this session, the course.
Yep, that's a great idea, because
Right.
also I think Miles Isaac is wanted to view that as well. So
Okay. So Monday again, holiday.
oh yep, thanks for the reminder. Yeah, so Monday's a holiday, so we're going to be holding our lesson on Tuesday at noon instead of Monday. Make sure that you have Pygame installed with Python. The video that I sent for installing Python talks about how to install Pygame as well. So just make sure that's installed. Does Tuesday not work for anybody? Okay. I'm just going to assume Tuesday works then. It works for everyone on our end. So we're going to go forward with Tuesday at noon. And then our last lesson is going to be the following Thursday, so 1 week from today. So yeah, thanks again for everyone who showed up, and sorry that this ran a little bit overtime. If you guys have any questions, once again, feel free to use the discussion forum, and we'll be sending out some follow-up emails as well about the video being uploaded. And also, once again, a reminder about the schedule being shifted for next week. Okay, sweet. Thanks. See you guys. Thanks for the help, Ted and Dennis. I know today was a little bit more difficult for some of the technical problems.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys. I'll see you guys on Tuesday then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
see you Tuesday.
See ya.
Bye.
But